The first batch of werewolf we did for the first movie, design-wise, I think Len was very pleased, but there were some issues. I was offering him to have very big necks and things like this, and we realized that those necks were very stiff. Didn't allow the actor to move as well as he wanted to.
And one of the biggest things that I wanted to change about the suits was the mobility with just the actor's neck, because we had this fairly thick neck on the werewolves, and it's a full solid piece of like foam rubber or whatever. And so once you got the guy in the suit, he looks a bit like an action figure because he just moves around and he looks like he's in a neck brace. So this time I sat down with Patrick and he and his guys designed a way that they would replace, and I forget exactly what they used in the end of the day, but it was much more of a fabric, almost spandex material just in the neck area, that he had free motion in his neck, but then it still kept everything else solid.
The black werewolves are the same sculpts, but all redone, same mechanics. Restructured the neck so they have a little more fluidity because the hair levels on all the werewolves across the board, we've sort of increased them to make it easier for the performers inside the suits.
So the original wolf you saw in the first movie are now coming back, but with much more hair on their skin. So it allows us to hide those necks, but now they move better.
We really stuck tight to the original designs on the first one, and having done that, we said, okay, what can we adjust a little in the design to give Len more freedom in shooting him, and give the guy inside the suit more freedom and safety, for that matter, to get all the shots needed for the show.
So we went into the mask and we built up all of the outer shell of it was a harder formed mask, and then inside, where you have the cheekbones and the jaw and the eyebrows and everything, we did with a very, very thin layer so that the expression can still come through.
Back actually on the first Underworld, we started to explore a couple ideas of selective density materials when we run the foam rubber. And what that kind of does is sort of let you choose your battles where the folds are going to happen in the suit and try to match things more anatomically correct. Because the suits are as big as they make the guys look, in a lot of areas they're very thin, and if you don't do some form of, let's call it artistic reinforcement, they don't fold right in the muscle groups. And that's something that we've started then, and we just keep improving it. So we're pretty happy with how the suits turned out this time. There's not much we'd improve on them. They're very tight-fitting suits, and we still do the same KY trick. We take the guy, once he's in the legs and the waist is attached, we slather his whole hand, arm, all the way up and here to his shoulder with KY and just kind of slip him into it.
As suits go, this isn't bad. I mean, it's not like I'm sitting at home in front of my TV relaxing on my couch, but as suits go, this is nice.
A big issue we had from the first one to the last one is we had a really small, I guess we'd call it paw print, that we designed around on the first one, which looked really neat, but as far as a practical piece, it didn't really give the guys a strong platform, let's say, to walk off of. So one of the things we explored on this one is before we even built the suits, we did some wider paw prints and changed a few bits of the orientation on the leg extensions. Once we got one that the performers were really happy with, we then based the sculpts on what worked with the foot pieces, kind of the reverse of the first one. So the guys do great on them. I mean, they can just stand there on one foot, do all kinds of crazy things they couldn't do on the first one. The leg extensions are pretty tremendous this go round.
This is what they look like from the side, and you'll see here there's a cable in the back that's attached down at the bottom of the heel to prevent us from pitching too far forward. Kevin made these so that they're adjustable, so that the feet can crank down, so I don't have to work so hard to maintain my balance.
Underworld 2 is much more technologically advanced in our ability to change parts, for the ability of the performer to perform in a lifelike manner.
2, 1, go!
It should really help the creature.
Okay, Kurt, head down.
Okay.
Guys in the creature suits, I think it's quite a funny job to have, to be honest, because you look at these guys' resumes and I played I played the creature in Mimic, and I played Harry and the Hendersons, and I played and so these guys have these resumes, and when you actually start to work with them, you start to recognize them in other movies because of their movements. Like, I know that, you know, one of our guys that was playing William, Brian Steele, he had just come off of Doom, and he was playing one of the creatures in Doom. Well, when I'm watching Doom, just the way that he rises into camera and the way that he performs, I can watch Doom, and there's this creature just full of, you know, it's this massive creature suit, and I look and I go, I just see Brian. You know, I mean, that's Brian right there. And so you start to recognize these guys through their makeup.
Still, brother. It's me.
On this new movie, we have a new werewolf. We have William, which is a totally different take. In a sense, kind of more traditional werewolf, as you know them, more like a wolf head and things like this.
The look on the William Wolf, there's just a whole neat flow to the white one. It takes 3 guys on radios to do the animatronics, plus the performer inside.
Patrick and I actually went through a lot of designs in drawing the jawline and making it still look very threatening and sort of bulky, so it looked mean and not this pointy, you know, Wile E. Coyote look. And that's what happens quite a bit. So we actually have a fairly heavy, pronounced jaw on William still.
Cool.
The White Wolf is more of like a hair type suit. So 70% of what you're seeing is actually meticulously hand-tied hair pieces. So they're all patterned and tailored on top of an undersculpture, and then hours and hours and more hours are spent in individually tying each little hair in. We feel bad whenever we cover them in blood and shoot them and stuff, because they're really beautiful. But those things happen. Our dental tech on this one is a guy named Dave Beneke. His nickname is Eggs, and he pretty much did all the teeth on this show for us. So based on the designs on the original one, we tooth cast umpteen zillion actors, and he has to hand sculpt, cast, run the whole process through.
First, what we do is we actually take an impression of the actor's teeth, and this is Tony Curran. This is a cast of Tony's teeth. It starts out this way, and then I'll take sculpting wax and actually sculpt the shape and form of the teeth.
This is a dental acrylic. It's a powder which we then mix with this dental monomer. You can see it's kind of a toxic solvent. It's actually melting the writing off the bottle itself. We mix those two together. We pour it into one of these molds. There we are. Vampire teeth.
Everything has to be done on articulators so we can reproduce the actor's real bite, because Tony has a lot of dialogue in this. We want to make sure that he's able to speak and, you know, everything moves, you know, so he's not restricted in any way with his performance with the way that the teeth fit.
In the midst of reconstituting himself, and we actually have 2 different faces for him. We have one that we've sort of affectionately called the battle face, which is a little more pronounced, a little more severe in the face, and then we have one that's kind of a dialogue face, where we've taken some of those things back just to allow him to read a little more through the makeup.
I've got wings and I fly, which is really, really cool actually, because it's an amazing makeup that Patrick and the guys have put together.
You know, he had a tough job ahead of him too, because we just piled on makeup, and he'll talk about it that it's just, you know, Wiseman puts me in just 7 hours of makeup or whatever it is, and then ask him to act through that. and he's got layers and just, I can't imagine having to practice to see what he's doing inside the mask and what's actually being seen on the outside.
They put my manskirt on, you know, they put my jacket on, they put my teeth in, they put my eyes in, they cover me in blood, and they go, right, go on!
The scale on Underworld 2 or Underworld Evolution is much bigger. It's 2 to 3 times the size of the first movie.
A lot of interiors, inside castles and dungeons and that sort of thing. So it became a story that looked like it was going to require an awful lot of building.
The first film, I definitely wanted a very dark, inner city, urban look for it, and when I arrived in Budapest, it looked like it was straight out of a comic book, and I said, this is where we need to make this movie.
You know, when we started the first movie, obviously we shot the movie in Budapest, and there was definitely an Eastern European feel to it, but I think the idea in the first one was that there are various covens all over the world and Europe, and that this was, you know, one of them.
There's so much history involved about where it started, where it originated, and you think of Transylvania, you think of Hungary, you think of, it just feels like a more of a European origin.
Eastern Europe was certainly under consideration, and we did go to Bucharest actually and traveled extensively around Romania. But there were other considerations for the making of the film to do with availability of our cast and so forth, and just some other logistical questions that really made us take a second look at keeping it in North America. It's a very difficult movie to split between 2 continents.
For the second film, I had no interest in doing the same film over again, so I wanted to make it as different of a setting as possible, as different, just as a director, just creatively, you kind of get things out of your system. Okay, I've done the urban, creepy, dark city. Now I'd like to do a bit more of a period with automatic weapons, to me.
So at the end of the day, we ended up in Vancouver, which provided us with the mountainous scenery we needed in great abundance, and the ability to build sets as well or better than we could anywhere else.
Our production designer, who also did the creatures on the first Underworld, is a fellow by the name of Patrick Totopoulos, who had just worked here on iRobot.
Coming from Europe, I've been used to live around places that come back to the medieval time, you know, everywhere you have like architecture that's still from that time. Anyway, so it's something that always fascinated me.
When I was a prop guy on, I think it was Stargate, it was the first time I met Patrick, and I've wanted to work with him for years.
When Len came to me and started to tell me about the concept, and I knew there was a lot of period aspect in it. Not only I wanted to work with Len because we're like friends, we've worked together for a long time, but on top of that, that made it very, very appealing to me.
What's great about working with Patrick is that I draw as well, so he understands that I'm going to go nuts and sketch everything that's in my head first, and I have to get that out, and he then takes better and just more detailed level than I would.
We wanted to keep a very realistic flavor to it, but I wanted to also open up a bit and give it a bit of another dimension. So we started to do concept drawing. Once those concepts were done, then we would bring back again reference to make sure the textures make sense, the material used makes sense, the detail made sense. So the main difference was to integrate new color. And that reflects what I've seen on the daily. You can really see that we've pushed the brown and still play with the blues. And whenever we go into a modern set like the Safe House, we go back to this very Underworld kind of look.
It needed to look much bigger than we had money for, to build, of course. And so a lot of the interiors were shot with very wide lenses and just make the place look enormous. And I think it photographs very huge, and it's really not that big at all.
I think the true job of a designer is not to come up with his own vision. You're not meant to do your vision of a movie. You're here to bring out the vision of a director.
The challenge of this one as compared to the first Underworld is so much greater because the action's been stepped up that much more.
Gun is on, full load.
In this one, we're trying to take everything up a notch. We try to make the action better by making everything faster, stronger, more aggressive. Go. The main difference is on the first one we tried to keep everything in much of the vein of the Hong Kong style wire work. Jim Churchman, my main rigger, has an automated winch system. We rig wires to do the move that we want to do or whatever stunt it is that we're trying to accomplish. And it's run on a computer, so we calculate the acceleration, the deceleration, the speed of the total motion. And once we have that programmed in and locked in, we can do it over and over again. So the only adjustments that we ever have to make are the adjustments for the actual performer in the wire.
For the ship attack, I had sat down with Brad Martin, who was he was shooting second unit on that sequence, and I really again wanted to have it live action, have Marcus actually fly in on a wire, go through, knock out two guys, and it was a pretty extensive wire rig for Brad and his team to pull off, and Jim Churchman, who was putting together the rig itself.
The very first shot that we used the winches on was a second unit shot where Marcus is flying across the outside of the ship. On top of using the winches, we hooked a ratchet up to the computer, as well as another man on a wire on the same system. So we had 3 people flying on one computer. Marcus flies down and he swipes one of the guards out of the way, continues down, grabs another guard and pulls him up out of frame.
The flight in, I think, is amazing. It's one of my favorite shots in the film.
We could do exactly the same thing time and time again because of the computer system. Kate is extremely game to try everything she can do.
Stuff them in. Oh, you know what it is?
Collar pull down.
Oh!
Yeah.
You didn't elbow him yet.
That's all right.
There's plenty of things to trip over, aren't there?
The dropping into the shots are a lot of the great moments that I know Len is very happy with, and I'm sure Kate, ultimately, when she sees it on screen, is going to be psyched that she did it.
Cut.
Regardless of what people think, the harness and dropping on wires, just hanging in a wire for an hour or two definitely takes a toll on the body.
On this movie, Len had said to me at one point, he said she's much better in the action on this movie than in the first because she's more comfortable fighting. You know, in the first movie she hadn't really been a fighter before, but she had learned from the first movie. In this movie, she kicks butt.
And look up.
First movie, I literally was a fish out of water and had these 3 very intense months of training and went from somebody who just, you know, had to be taught how to not run like a girl, you know, really from scratch. This time I'd obviously had a bit of experience of that, so it was much easier to kind of come in. Plus, it was the same stunt crew that we had last time, so we all know how we all.
He had a lot going on in this one as well, and it's just, you know, he wants to do everything. If he sees me putting anybody else on a wire, it's like, man, what are you doing? What's you know, I'm here, like I'm in a hotel room. Like, what am I doing here? Like, put me on the wire.
All right, I think that's the one. Just let me watch.
I try to do as much as I can. Like, if we're doing a fight sequence that, you know, has a lot of moves and a lot of choreography, I mean, you know, if I can learn it and do it to where it looks okay, I like to do that.
He really loves doing that stuff, and so he'll always try it first, and we'll hook him up, and he's quite an athlete.
You know, I came up here early and, you know, tried to get in shape a little bit physically, so athletically, so I could do it. And hanging, you know, 25 feet up in the air and, you know, coming down and landing perfectly and doing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's great. I mean, it's fun. I love doing that stuff.
He just dives into it and wants to do everything and gets just, you know, beaten up and thrown to the walls and everything. And he's a complete, you know, just trooper about it.
This movie's been a blast to shoot. I mean, it's hard, it's a lot of work, it's been long. I mean, it's been 4 months, but I mean, it's been fun. I mean, I don't feel as exhausted as I usually do at the end of a movie. I mean, it's been invigorating.